Welcome to our weekly visit with people who are creating immense possibilities for healthier communities, for solutions to all kinds of problems. Yesterday we celebrated our independence as a nation, and tonight we want you to know about the Welcome Home Project, which is really addressing a very particular challenge in a very creative way. The Welcome Home Project was conceived by two people who live here in Southern Oregon, Bill McMillan and his wife, Kim Shelton. And it's a real pleasure to welcome to Immense Possibilities psychologist, now filmmaker, Bill McMillan. Bill, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jeff. Nice to be here.
Tell us what the Welcome Home Project is and how you and your wife first decided you wanted to do it.
Well, the Welcome Home Project was created by Kim and myself in 2007, late 2007, when things were really falling apart, it seemed, in Iraq. And we were watching thousands of men and women come home, and we felt a real deep frustration with not knowing any veterans. We're not veterans ourselves, and we wanted to participate in some way, to find some way to be involved and included in whatever was needed for returning veterans. Mm-hmm. So we formed the Welcome Home Project.
And it turned out to have two main parts to it. Talk about that.
Well, the first part of it was we created a 5-day retreat for veterans, and we included, it was open to any veterans, and we ended up having veterans from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam, as well as family members. So there were wives and boyfriends and parents, and so we had a real mix. And it was led by a guy named Michael Mead, who is brilliant with traumatized communities and uses poetry and storytelling to help traumatized communities work with the issues that they're struggling with. And that ended with a community-wide celebration welcome home ceremony for veterans at the Bomer Theater.
Very literally a welcome home of the warriors.
That's right. That's right, where they read poetry to the community, and the community was there to receive what they brought home.
Were people skeptical about this when you first started talking about it? Here you are, two lay people, you're psychologists, no military background. Did people resist at first or suspect that you had some other agenda, or was it smooth sailing from the start?
Well, it was smooth sailing with some people, and there was a lot of resistance in other areas. The civilians that knew us and understood us and our motives were all for it, because I think a lot of civilians really are interested in veterans and interested in soldiers and interested in what's coming home. But the veteran community certainly was skeptical, as it is, as my experience at least, as it is with most civilians. They don't really know where we're coming from or what our motives are, or in this case, whether we're going to put together something that is either dangerous to them or frivolous. And so it took a while to get over a kind of hump with veterans that way.
How much of this has to do with the shadow from the return of veterans from the Vietnam War?
I think a good deal of it has to do with that, certainly with Vietnam veterans. They have good reasons to distrust what the civilian community is about. But I also think that it's part of the camaraderie of the military world, and it is a separate world than civilian world. And I believe that we are outsiders to them. And so for us to get in and to be working with something as incredibly personal and often as painful as war is, to bring us into it and for us to invite ourselves in was definitely a challenge for a lot of veterans.
What did you learn along the way, and what surprised you?
Well, you know, I think the biggest surprise to me was the level of enthusiasm that our local community had for this. Once we started getting this out, what we were going to do, the level of participation and interest and desire to be a part of it was overwhelming. We could not use all of the volunteers that wanted to be a part of this.
Well, as the first volunteers, you probably understand some of that. There's something that goes pretty deep here.
Yeah, I think there is. And what we found was that if an idea that touches people's heart, it can be put in front of a community that opens the possibility for them to play with it, people will jump on it. And despite what is often said in the press about people not caring, civilians not caring about veterans and stuff, we did not find that to be the case at all. Now, certainly it's not true of everybody, but we had a lot of people that wanted to help us. And I think that the second thing that was the most surprising to me was the level of acceptance that we received from the veterans once we had gotten past the door. People, they were amazed that somebody wanted to come in and do what we wanted to do with them.
What are the chances of replicating this around the country? Because we have hundreds of thousands of troubled people coming home from war.
Right.
It's already happened some it's going to keep happening. Can this achieve a scale where it can make a real difference nationally?
Absolutely. There's no reason why groups of civilians can't form some kind of coalition with veterans groups to help veterans come forward with, in this case, they use poetry or artwork or stories and that kind of thing, for where the intention is to set it up so that the civilian and older veteran community is actually willing to be in a place where they can receive it, hear it, take it in, and not be getting involved in a political discussion about it. This is not, to us, this isn't about politics. This is about people coming together around a really human vulnerability. In this case, it's focused on war and it's focused on post-traumatic stress and the effect on the families and the communities that veterans come back to. And all of us can touch that. So in that sense, it's replicable any place. If we're open to touching the kind of pain that comes home, we're all wider people for it.
Have you gotten what you wanted out of this project so far?
So far, but I mean, our goal, as far as pulling it off in Ashland, definitely. We could not have had a better experience here. The veterans that were involved with it, the community, the Shakespeare Festival, you know, even being invited to this show, the people here have been awesome. But our goal is much bigger than that, actually. It's to use this film out in communities to inspire people all over the country to get really personally involved in some way. And it doesn't have to be this. This was quite elaborate, but it doesn't have to be this. It could just be babysitting for a deployed veteran's kids. It could be anything.
We want to show some segments of the film itself, so give people an idea of both what the retreat in the mountains was like and what the celebration, the welcome home by the community was like. And when we come back from an excerpt of that, we're going to visit with two of the primary people in the film, three of them actually, who we'll introduce in just a moment. But Bill, I think on behalf of the community here in Southern Oregon who have been part of this for a few years, I really want to express my thanks to you and Kim for your tenacity in pulling off what has to be thought of as an improbable project when you started.
You were one of our first skeptics.
Well, it was an immense possibility, and now it's an immense reality. Congratulations on the film. Thanks for what you do. And let's take a look at a portion of the film, The Welcome.
So, am I supposed to cry? Because I am.
A caution to our viewers. This 5-minute excerpt from the film The Welcome includes some very disturbing language about warfare.
Believe me, I was a drill sergeant. I did not cry. I did not cry, and it took me a long time. And now I can cry at a drop of a hat. There's no hurry. When I started crying, I thought I was going to cry till I was 60, you know? Just didn't think that it was ever going to stop, and still feels like that sometimes, that I just wake up and that's all I can do. Don't be so in a hurry to, like, stop it.
We as Vietnam vets, we understand what you're going through, and we're here to help. I just think that you should keep letting it out. Don't worry about it. You guys are young, and so you got a lot more years to work out. You know, work it out, get to know how to get through it. This battle lasted all night. It was like morning. The sun was coming up when it was over. And in the morning, I was trying to piece together what had happened. And this guy turned the radio on, and this song came on. It's a beautiful morning. And the next thing I heard was an M16 blasting that radio.